For the Christmas season, I wanted to do a video over something seasonally appropriate. I ran through all the obvious options, Die Hard, Home Alone, Elf, but none of them strike the right chord that I'm looking for. I had reached the point of melancholy over my failure to find just the right one when it hit me. The perfect movie to cover over this wintry season. A movie that embodies the cold, icy state of most our external climates. A movie that features my favorite character in all of fiction. A movie with one of the worst casting decisions turned comedy gold in all of cinema. I am talking about 1997's Batman and Robin. I know what you're thinking. This is what you're covering for Christmas? I know. It's not a classic Christmas movie for sure, but it has a ton of wintry vistas and enough ice puns to keep your heart warm and jolly for the entire season. I wanted to do something a little outside the box and cover a movie about a character I love. Plus, I'm not the only one that think that this is a good Christmas time movie. So let's begin. It's no surprise to anyone at this point that Batman and Robin was a complete failure of the movie-making art in every conceivable way. Poor casting? Check. Lackluster acting? Check. Studio interference? Check. Director that doesn't take the movie seriously? Check. Costume and equipment designed by toy companies? Check. Bat nipples? Check. This movie failed on every fundamental level of what makes a movie a movie. So you may ask, why are you covering it? Because it is an amazing movie. One of those pieces of cinema that goes so far on the bad side of the quality meter that it circles back around to the good side. Batman and Robin is the ultimate guilty pleasure movie. So let's enjoy it together for a bit. Batman and Robin was a studio-driven movie designed to capitalize upon the success of 1995's Batman Forever, going into principal production the very next year. In order to get the movie created as quickly as possible, the studio attempted to bring back as much of the original production staff, thinking that it would facilitate a quicker turnaround. Joel Schumacher was brought back as director and writer, along with Akiva Goldsman. Chris O'Donnell reprised his role as Robin, but Val Kilmer was done with the franchise, with there being some disagreement between whether he was fired or quit. To replace him, the studio went not with the best, most capable actor to play Batman, but instead with a hot commodity at the time, George Clooney. This phenomenon of emphasizing popularity over appropriateness continued with the casting of Uma Thurman and Alicia Silverstone as Poison Ivy and Batgirl, but it reached its zenith with the casting of Mr. Freeze. Instead of a Mr. Freeze that was severe and intense, or clinical and methodical, or classy and introspective, we got one that could barely speak English and made constant ice puns. Arnold Schwarzenegger, probably the biggest star at the time, was cast as a Nobel Prize winner Victor Freeze, a character with a tragic, complicated backstory. Because when I look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think of Nobel Prize winner and deep acting portrayal. While this might have been the worst casting of all time for a legitimate movie, it was the best casting for an insane, campy romp through a fever dream of a movie. At its heart, Batman and Robin is a movie about family. Bruce and Dick, Barbara and Alfred, Bruce and Alfred, Freeze and his wife. The majority of the interactions in this movie are about obligation to family or defining what family is. Even Poison Ivy's relationship with Freeze is one of jealousy aimed at his catatonic wife. Even Bane. Never mind, I'm just joking. The point is that the movie tries to handle some deeper themes throughout its runtime. It fails to handle them appropriately in every possible way, but I give it points for trying. Let's discuss. The movie opens on an ominous tone with the bat insignia frozen over. After some credits, we transition to up-close cuts of Batman and Robin getting ready for another night of fighting crime, complete with close-ups of the bat nipples and butt shots. The over-the-top ostentatious Batmobile with spinning disco ball attachment rises from the floor below. Batman and Robin stand resolute, getting their minds in a place necessary to go to war with Gotham's most hardened villains. Then, the opening line.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This might be the dumbest opening line in cinematic history. Batman speeds away in the car, leaving Robin behind to awkwardly wait for his motorcycle to arrive. After another dumb line, he speeds off. We're left with Alfred looking clearly in pain. Hold on to that for later. We cut to the Batmobile, where a little screen rotates up to show Commissioner Gordon. He tells Batman that a new villain has appeared, commandeered the antiquities wing of the Gotham Museum, and turned the guards into ice cubes. He calls himself Mr. Freeze. Now, we'll find out later that Freeze is stealing valuables, diamonds in particular, in order to keep his suit running and fund his research into his wife's medical condition. From the looks of it, he's been doing this for a while. So I'm wondering why the world's greatest detective needs the commissioner to clue him in on who this guy is and what he's doing. We cut to the inside of the Gotham Museum, which has been turned into a frozen wasteland. Guards enter and shoot at Mr. Freeze as he walks down the stairs, the bullets bouncing off his armor. He freezes the guards. This is a really cool entrance for the villain. He looks intimidating and unstoppable. Then he speaks.
The Iceman cometh.
This isn't the greatest line, but let's give him another chance. Two of his goons walk up holding one of the guards that escaped being frozen. He falls to his knees and begs for mercy. His response, while not delivered in the best way, is still a really good line.
Mercy? I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
I would have preferred it to be more reserved and less emotional, delivered colder. But still, not bad. He freezes the guard and spots his goal, the diamond. Batman bursts through the skylight and lands on top of a dinosaur. He greets Freeze and introduces himself. Freeze attempts to shoot him, but Batman slides down the spine of the dinosaur and soars through the air. Robin bursts through the window on his motorcycle and soars awkwardly through the air. He kicks Freeze's gun away from him and it soars through the air. It looks like everyone is wearing wires, and that's because they are. Freeze sends his goons in to kill the heroes, beginning a prolonged action sequence, complete with the hidden bat ice skates. At the end of the fight, Robin ends up with the diamond, but Mr. Freeze isn't finished yet. He has a plan and another pun.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
The chaos of the collapsing dinosaur allows Freeze to enter his rocket ship. Batman follows, but is incapacitated. Just as it takes off, Robin jumps onto the outside. Inside the rocket, Freeze explains that the rocket will fly high into the sky above Gotham before burning out and plummeting to the ground, killing thousands of people. Freeze jumps from the rocket, deploying a set of wings that would never work in even a fictional universe, and begins gliding down to the ground. Back in the rocket, Robin enters and frees Batman. Batman places a bomb to blow up the rocket and prevent it from falling back to the city before he and Robin jump out. They follow Freeze down to the ground, entering some kind of vault door building, and chase him through the structure. Robin acts impetuously and lunges towards Freeze from a starting point too far away to actually have done any good and is frozen. Mr. Freeze takes the diamond from Robin and tells Batman that he has only minutes to thaw Robin, using this time to get away. Batman foregoes chasing Freeze and thaws out Robin. From here, we jump to a botanical research facility in Brazil, where we're introduced to Dr. Pamela Isley. Pamela is a stereotypical ideological scientist whose research is being used by her boss, Dr. Jason Woodrow, to make a super soldier formula called Venom. She walks in on him using this new concoction on a small serial killer, turning him into the monstrous Bane, or at least a mindless brute that's called Bane. She threatens to expose him, so he kills her in the most over-the-top way possible, throwing several tables of chemicals on top of her. Thinking her dead, he returns to his audience of terrorists to auction off the serum, but in fact the chemicals are slowly mutating her body into something else. Back at the Batcave, Bruce gives Robin and the audience a crash course in Freeze's backstory. Dr. Victor Freeze was once a scientist working to develop a cure for an in-universe disease for his terminally ill wife, Nora. At some point, a lab accident rendered him unable to live at normal temperatures, requiring him to use a specialized suit powered by diamonds for survival. Okay. Back in Brazil, Dr. Woodrow is congratulating one of the terrorists for winning the auction. Suddenly, Pamela emerges from the ground looking and acting differently. Woodrow is clearly infatuated with this new version of Pamela, and she definitely plays it up, drawing him in for a kiss while explaining what all the chemicals did to her. After pulling away from their kiss, she finishes by saying that her lips had been infused with poison. Woodrow seizes up and dies. Pamela begins destroying the lab to cover up what has happened and catches sight of the Wayne Enterprises logo on one of the beakers. She gets an idea as Bane yells his name from a nearby room. From here, we get some really in-depth insight into Mr. Freeze's psychology and motivations. We are granted a look at a tragic villain overtaken by his grief and loss. Just look at him. He's hurting so much, but he doesn't like to let others inside to see his pain. After his attempt at conducting fail, we see him smoking a cigar, drawing in hot smoke into his mouth, which should absolutely be dangerous to him, but in Arnie's words,
I can smoke stogies in my house because I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no from anyone. I smoke my stogie anywhere I want. I don't have to find a hideout place like you.
he resists Vivica A. Fox's advancements and explains to his henchman Frosty about battling Batman exhausting his energy. He marvels at the giant diamond and notes that he needs only one more for his freezing engine to be complete. He'll freeze Gotham and hold it ransom for billions to complete his research. He's so impassioned about this that he has some really bad ADR that doesn't match up the movements to his mouth.
Unless the city bows to my demands, it's winter forever here in Gotham.
With that exposition out of the way, he goes to see his wife frozen, suspended in water of some sort. Back at Wayne Manor, a knock at the front door introduces us to Barbara Wilson, Alfred's niece. She's just left Oxford for the semester and decided to look up her uncle. Despite the dangers of having a long-term guest around Wayne Manor, Bruce offers her the option to stay with them. I have no idea why they decided to make Barbara Alfred's niece instead of Jim Gordon's daughter. Maybe it was because Pat Hingle was 75 when this movie was made, far too old to have a daughter Barbara's age. Or maybe it was because the writers were too lazy to find an organic way of bringing Barbara into the Bat family. You decide. That night, she comes by Alfred's room to establish some backstory and set up a story development for later. After she leaves, she sneaks out through the window to run off for some hidden activity, even though she is an adult that's staying there as a guest and could leave whenever she wanted. The next day, Bruce is attending the unveiling of a new observatory, which is interrupted by the sudden appearance of Pamela. She barges her way through, escorted by several guards that clearly want her to stop but refuse to actually touch her. She presents a proposal to save the planet to Bruce, which involves ending fossil fuel use and the deaths of millions of people around the world. Sounds kind of familiar. Bruce rightly turns down her proposal, stating that people are more important. In order to assuage some of her disappointment, he gives her an invitation to a charity event to raise money for the environment, where Batman and Robin are expected to be as well. At Freeze's hideout, an unlucky henchman shows Freeze that Bruce Wayne is having the Wayne family jewels put on display at the auction. This could be the final diamond he needs, and he prepares to attack the gala. At the charity event, all of Gotham's elite has gathered to bid on women named after different plants. Batman and Robin are in attendance, standing awkwardly in bright lights in front of everyone. The bidding is interrupted by the arrival of Pamela, who uses a special pheromone to enthrall the crowd, including Batman and Robin. She introduces herself as Poison Ivy, and the bidding begins, escalating quickly before Batman bids $1 million. This shocking development is only beaten by Robin bidding against him, with the two of them going back and forth before Batman removes his Bat credit card. This is patently absurd, but luckily the idiocy is interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Freeze. He freezes a bunch of people, steals the jewels, and leaves. Batman and Robin take off after them. The car chase continues through Gotham, with Freeze leading them to a large jump. Batman recognizes that Robin's motorcycle does not have the weight necessary to make the jump and tells him to pull back. Robin refuses, so Batman uses his master override to shut down his motorcycle, which could have easily resulted in his death anyway. Freeze makes the jump while his two support vehicles crash into the building. The Batmobile makes the jump, and Batman takes out Mr. Freeze in a scene they clearly forgot to shoot. Afterwards, Robin is mad at Batman for not trusting him. He storms off. Freeze is transferred to Arkham, where he is given a cell with no bars that he cannot escape. Later that night, Dick catches an alarm alerting him to Barbara stealing one of Bruce's motorcycles. He takes chase after her to an illicit motorcycle race. He enters the race to watch out for her, saving her life when treachery occurs. Afterward, Barbara tells Dick that Alfred is sick before storming off. Bruce enters and tells him that Alfred isn't sick. He's dying from an earlier stage of the same disease that Freeze's wife has. Back at Arkham, Poison Ivy and Bane break Freeze out of prison. Batman and Robin find out and go with the police to Freeze's hideout, trying to find any clues about what Freeze might be up to. Batman approaches a wall and finds a hidden button as if he knows it's there. Inside, they find Nora Freeze. We're given a change of perspective from where Freeze and Ivy are hiding and watching. Freeze tells her that he will handle the police and Batman and Robin if Ivy will get his wife. Ivy is clearly angry about a wife she didn't know about, but she goes along. Freeze enters the main chamber of his hideout and turns the temperature from hot to cold, and the police are immediately unable to breathe. Freeze heads up to the top of the set of stairs to get his freezing weapon. Meanwhile, Ivy uses her pheromones to attract Batman and Robin. They begin to fight Bane, but Robin gets knocked away where Ivy is awaiting him. While Batman fights Bane, Robin talks with Ivy. He's clearly trying to ascertain where she stands in the coming fight, but he's also falling for her feminine wiles. Just when he's about to kiss her, Batman interrupts, having figured out that her previous victims had been killed with toxins administered via mouth. Robin reacts to this like a rational, well-adjusted adult. He declares their partnership over and storms off. Meanwhile, Ivy deactivates the tank holding Nora. She goes to Freeze and tells him that Batman deactivated her, even though this goes completely against everything everyone knows about Batman by this point. Freeze is furious at losing his wife and declares that the world will know his pain. Back at Wayne Manor, a doctor confirms everyone's suspicions. Alfred is dying from an incurable disease. While speaking to Barbara, Alfred gives her a locked CD case telling her to give it to his brother Wilbur. Elsewhere, the villains prepare for their final attack. Ivy acquires the keys to the GCPD rooftop and has Bane destroy the bat signal, replacing it with a Robin signal. Elsewhere, Freeze prepares his henchmen. Meanwhile, Barbara manages to gain access to the CD given to her by Alfred and learns the truth about Batman and Robin. The Robin signal is activated, and Robin prepares to go to its source. Bruce interrupts and explains that Ivy has been manipulating them and declares he needs Robin's help. He asks him to trust him. Freeze attacks the observatory and sends Bane to plant bombs all over it. Barbara breaks into the Batcave and is met with a computer program based on Alfred's personality. It reveals that Alfred suspected Barbara would learn the truth and designed equipment for her. She suits up. Robin arrives at the source of the Robin signal and finds Poison Ivy waiting for him. They flirt back and forth, and Robin finally kisses her. Ivy smiles and gives him the bad news, but he doesn't seem too worried. He reveals the trick up his sleeve, or over his mouth, rubber lips that protected him from the poison. She kicks him into the water where vines encircle him and drag him under. Batman confronts her and is grabbed by vines from above. Ivy is about to escape when Batgirl breaks through a skylight and stands in her way. The two fight for a while, with Batgirl giving weak attempts to chide and smack-talk Ivy. Ivy is finally beaten, but not before admitting to killing Nora Freeze. Batman and Robin confront Batgirl and decide to let her help defeat Freeze. We cut to our final set piece. Batman, Robin, and Batgirl approach the observatory as Freeze initiates his plan. He uses the observatory telescope to direct his freezing engine to freeze all of Gotham. The heroes enter the observatory and decide to use the complex system of satellites around the world to relay the sun from the other side of the planet to the observatory, where it can then be directed at Gotham to thaw the city. Freeze appears and attacks, sending Robin and Batgirl to a lower section of the observatory where they must fight Bane. Batman fights Freeze. Bane is far too strong for Robin and Batgirl to take on in a straight fight, but they do manage to pull the tube out of the back of his head, causing him to lose his strength and revert back to his smaller size. Batman beats Freeze and renders him unable to continue to fight, but Freeze has one last trick up his sleeve. He activates the bombs placed by Bane, causing the entire telescope to fall to the ground. After putting their heads together, the three heroes determine that they can retask the satellites to route the sunlight to Gotham just in time to save the city. Batman approaches Freeze, who tells him to kill him just like he killed his wife. Batman plays a recording of Ivy's confession and reveals that he reactivated the equipment. Freeze's wife is still alive, awaiting his continued research. He asks him to help him cure the lower stages of the disease, and Freeze gives him vials of the cure. Bruce gives it to Alfred, and he rises the next morning feeling fine. Despite Bruce's declaration that Barbara is going back to school, he eventually agrees to allow her to remain as part of the team. The movie ends in Ivy's cell in Arkham, where it is revealed that Freeze has been assigned as her cellmate. The ending focuses on Ivy's face, contorted in genuine horror. It's kind of a shocking ending for a kids' movie. We close on our heroes running toward the camera. Roll credits. Let's discuss a few things. At the center of the movie is the relationship between Batman and Robin. Now, George Clooney was horribly cast in the role of Bruce Wayne / Batman. This isn't talked about that much when discussing this movie because of the 250-pound Austrian in the room, but it really was a poor choice. Clooney seems disinterested and disengaged throughout the entire film, seeming as though he would rather be anywhere else. I can understand an actor taking the role because it was such a big deal at the time, getting in that obviously uncomfortable suit and then realizing it was a massive mistake. But Clooney even drops the ball during the dramatic scenes where he's just a guy trying to express human emotions. I've seen George Clooney act. He can do it, but there's none of that in this movie. To his credit, he makes no attempt to undermine his bad work here. He had famously offered to repay anyone for their movie ticket, which is an admirable offer given how arrogant actors can often be. I think the biggest problem with his portrayal is that he's not playing Batman. He's playing a guy wearing a Batman suit, which is really all he is. Chris O'Donnell is, quite frankly, a boring person. He was boring in Batman Forever, and that carries right over into this movie. Every line is delivered flat and bland. There's no real emotion, even when actively fighting or trying to show jealousy or frustration. He's just there. Watching Clooney and O'Donnell acting off of each other is like watching two aliens that don't understand human emotion, trying to perform some facsimile of what they think is normal. But despite their acting shortcomings, they are what we have. This movie follows a few years after the conclusion of Batman Forever, long enough to get his own Robin branded equipment. Still, despite moving on to the team, Robin still feels like an outsider that Batman doesn't fully trust, evidenced by the opening line of the movie. The movie depicts this distrust to be genuine, with Batman even admitting as much in one of the more emotional scenes made for the trailer where Bruce asks Dick to trust him. The problem is that Bruce never demonstrates any real distrust of Dick throughout the movie. He deactivates his motorcycle when Robin stupidly believes he has the weight to make the jump when chasing Freeze. He stops Robin from kissing Ivy after realizing that her kiss is poisonous, resulting in a fight between the two started by Robin. And that's it. There's no distrust in the relationship. There's stupidity, but no distrust. There's no movement in the relationship. It begins with, I trust you. No, you don't. And ends with, I trust you. I guess you do. Throw in a ridiculous auction competition, complete with a Batman credit card, and a dive into a vat of melted ice cream, and you have the recipe for a really bad, though hilarious movie. There are plenty of tertiary relationship dynamics around Batman and Robins, but they all pale in comparison. Bruce and Alfred have a father son dynamic, with Alfred dispensing advice on occasion and Bruce showing something approaching sadness when it appears Alfred will die. Alfred and Barbara are related for some reason. She enters the movie, participates in a motorcycle race, betrays her uncle's trust, discovers Bruce and Dick's secret, and becomes Batgirl. Freeze's entire motivation is in saving his wife, though a lot of this motivation comes from what we know of him from other properties than anything stated in the movie. Just based upon this movie, we know Freeze wants to save his wife, and we know that he's committing crimes and stealing things, but we never really see how those two things are connected without importing what we know from other depictions of the character. And speaking of Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal of Mr. Freeze is the primary draw of this movie. If the rest of the movie was boring and uneventful, it would still be worth watching just for him. The issues with Freeze start with Arnie's limitations as an actor. As I said earlier, no one looks at him and thinks, oh yeah, this guy's won a Nobel Peace Prize. Furthermore, playing Freeze properly, especially post-character redesign in Batman the Animated Series, requires an acting prowess sufficient to portray a sympathetic monster. You have to watch Mr. Freeze coldly dispatching of people and think, I get why he's doing this. That takes a little more than an 80s and 90s action star can muster for the most part. Arnie is good at looking angry and shooting guns, not expressing intense sadness without saying a word. Next, there's Freeze's look. At this point, it's been confirmed that toy companies played a major part in designing this movie, with Freeze's gun being a stated example. Freeze's suit is a combination of chrome and LED lights that seems out of place for the character. I realize other portrayals of Mr. Freeze has followed similar design aesthetics, but many of those tone down the brightness and making it look a little more weathered. The suit looks cheap, which is funny because it probably took an offensive amount of money in real life to design and construct it. Succinctly put, Freeze just looks ridiculous, and you never want that reaction when people see your villain. Finally, there's the worst/best part of his portrayal, the ice puns. At some point in the writing of this movie, Joel Schumacher and Avica Goldsman decided that this tragic story of a man who lost everything in his vain attempt at forestalling his wife's deadly debilitating disease unfortunately becoming a monster in the process, and ultimately using that darkness within him to continue his fool's errand, really needed some corny ice puns to add a little levity. Should we put a little character growth here to show that Freeze regrets what he's become? No, let's have him say, cool party. Yeah, that works better. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the ice puns. They are a crucial piece to what makes this movie work. But there are two ways to evaluate a movie. Is it good? And is it fun to watch? A lot of the times, those two measures overlap, and you end up with a good movie that is fun to watch. But sometimes you end up with only one. This is not a good movie, but it is really fun to watch, and Arnie is why. Right behind Arnie's freeze and the enjoyment factor is Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy. Uma Thurman may have been the only one of the major actors in this movie that knew what kind of movie she was in. She's over the top, super expressive, and overly dramatic. Just as Arnold Schwarzenegger really wasn't playing Mr. Freeze, I don't think Uma Thurman was really playing Poison Ivy. Still, both of them are having fun, and they fit in very well in a movie like this. I'm not going to address the complete mishandling of Bane except to say that it's obvious that the writers took one look at a picture of Bane and figured they had the character figured out. Big guy, funny mask, criminal. There is nothing about this glorified monkey that can remotely be called Bane. The Tom Hardy portrayal of Bane wasn't perfect and it gets a lot of criticism, but it was a far cry better than this. This is a really, really bad movie, but I love it so much. I can't imagine there's any way that any of you watching this hasn't seen it, but if it has somehow slipped under your radar, do yourself the biggest favor ever and watch it this holiday season. In the meantime, let me know your favorite Batman villain that hasn't been in a movie down below. Thanks for watching.